So as I was saying, upstream vertical alliances, so alliance with firms on the supply side, this can help reduce the bargaining power of the supplies, and it's where firms collaborate with the suppliers. Then you have the downstream vertical alliances. This is firms in distribution, so this reduces the threat of the bargaining powers of the buyers. So again, like I said before, Priceline does this. So to reduce the threat of substitutes, alliances need to work together to use each other's products. So then there's not more substitutes coming in. They're working together and reducing substitutes being created. So then we have resource-based. So you have your value. So advantages, alliance must create value by reducing cost, risk, and uncertainties. Usually they use the complementary assets of partners. And then you have the disadvantages. You could get the wrong partners, which can be horrible. Trust can be abused, and that's one of the biggest things of creating alliances. Can you trust the other partner, or are they using you to get opportunities for them? And yeah, it can make it easier for the competition to observe how you are doing things and then steal that and go back and use that to their advantage. Rarity, so you have relational capabilities. You need to successfully manage interfirm relationships, and this is very rare. And then you have partner rarity. It's hard to find the right partner with the capabilities that are required to make a successful alliance. Imitability, so you have firm level resources can be imitated by the partner. Alliance level can be hard to trust partners. So again, same things we kind of talked about before. Organization at the firm level. How are the firms organized, and how can you benefit from this? This is a very important issue that sometimes doesn't get looked at. And then the alliance level, if it's not working, it's even harder to get it working. Like if it doesn't work from the start, sort of like a marriage, it's probably not going to end up working in the end. And we have institution-based. So alliances have to use the formal legal framework. So because of those trust concerns and working with competition. And then you have entry, the mode requirements. There's all these formal things to enter a market. So all of these formal framework is very important. Alliances have informal institutions. So there's collective norms, which is supported by the normative pillar. There's a variety of alliances. A variety of alliances is good instead of ignoring the industry trend. Sort of gets forced into this because they're pressured to, firms are pressured to create an alliance. And the problem with this is that sometimes firms rush and don't do their due diligence to investigate the partner. They're making a huge risk signing these contracts with. Cognitive pillars, internalize values that are taken for granted. Firms pursue their interests to make choices, and formal constraints fail, then informal one plays a larger role. These are the stages of forming alliances. So you cooperate or not to cooperate. And there's market transactions, pursue cooperative, aligned relationships, or mergers and acquisitions. Once you've decided to do this and which route to go, then you have stage 2. Are we going contract or equity? And you have the contract, and it lists all those, talk about those and the way that you want to do it, or the equity way. And then stage 3, you're specifying your relationship. Evolution, so you're combating opportunism. And this is a big one with the alliances. You need to wall off capabilities is an option. The partner has no access to your most important capabilities, and this protects them. Or you can swap the capabilities, which is completely opposite of walling off them, but you're sort of holding each other hostage. And that way, one's not trying to get the others. You're both sort of benefiting, but it depends on if you want to put that out there or not. Evolve from strong to weak ties. So emphasis on either set of ties is important during certain periods, just depending on where you're at. So you have exploitation, it's refinement, choice, production and efficiency, Or you have exploration, you're searching, variation, risk-taking, experimentation. So those all depend on the period that you're in. And then you can have the corporate marriage to divorce. So you have initiation, one partner starts feeling uncomfortable. Then you go public, so the first one to break the news has the advantage. And then you have the uncoupling part, kind of mediation. This can be civil or not. Best way is civil, obviously. And then you have the aftermath. So you're searching for new partners, or maybe you're just going alone. But you've learned a lot and you're going to negotiate more extensively, research more, investigate, things like that. Performance. So opinions vary very much on how to measure performance. So you have your objective measures, which are profit, market share, and then you have your subjective, which is managerial satisfaction, which is sort of hard to measure. So 4 factors influence performance, and you need a combination of these in order to succeed. So you have equity. The greater the equity, the greater the commitment, the better the performance. Learning and experience. What have you learned from your partners? So the experience is easier to measure than the learning portion of it. The nationality. So the more similar you are, the less issues. This goes sort of along with culture. People who are more culturally similar firms are going to work together better because they look at things from the same perspective. And you have relational capabilities. Due to time, I'm going to skip the debates. Strategies for this. So you want to improve capabilities to form alliances. Master rules of the game for the alliances around the world. And look at pros and cons of acquisition or an alliance. Consider both. Chapter 8, competitive dynamics. So these are competitive dynamics, competing firms' actions and responses. Then you have a competitor analysis, which is a firm's process for predicting what is their rival going to do, and they need to prepare for it. Firms that don't do this usually don't do very well. Strategy, which is the interaction. Action and reactions are going to lead to having a competitive advantage. Businesses compete. This you can consider businesses having war and peace at the same time, or we consider offense and defense. So you have to be doing both in order to be successful. And then you have multi-market competition. Firms act domestically, but they are thinking globally. And then you have mutual forbearance. So the multi-market firms are respecting competitors in certain markets, and then they respect them back. They're working together. Industry-based, so you have rivalry. Firms participate in collusion, which are collective attempts to reduce the competition. So a lot of it was about collusion. You have tacit collusion, explicit collusion, the antitrust laws, the game theory with the prisoner dilemma. So if you have 2 people convicted of a crime, and you're telling one, if you confess, then you get less time, or if they both confess, they'll get less time, or if none confess, they go free. So looking at those things as well. Collusion into competition. So there's number of firms. You have the concentration ratio, which is the percent of total industry sales from the 4 top firms. So the higher concentration, the easier it is for collusion. You have price leaders. They're dominant in the market. They set the price for the industry. And then you have homogeneous products where rivals are forced to compete on the price, and this creates collusion again. High entry barriers, then the firm is more likely to participate in collusion again. Market commonality is a degree of overlap between competitor marketers. So the more of this there is, there's deterrence and familiarity. From a resource-based view, again, value. Are you creating value when you engage in rivals? You're competing in several markets. Rarity. If your assets are rare, this increases competition. Immutability. Watch each other to understand how one competes. Organization. Some are better at competitive actions, and they have a fighter brand. And this combats low-cost rivals while protecting the incumbent offering. And then you have resource similarity. Competitor possesses strategic endowment compared to focal firm high degree. So this creates similar competitive actions. I put this resource similarity graph in there because I thought it was helpful to look at if you have low market commonality, and low resource similarity, you can see where you're at. Institution-based, so competition policy. You're governing the rules of the game of competition. So there's antitrust policies and things like that. And then you have collusive price setting, monopolists set higher than the competitive level. You have predatory pricing, where price is below cost and there's more monopolizing. Extraterritoriality, which you reach one country's laws to another. Anti-dumping, this is exporter sells below cost abroad and prices after rivals are eliminated. You raise the prices after your rivals are eliminated. And they created a law, lots of different laws to govern this because it cannot be fair for others. You have attacks and counterattacks. So attack is a set of actions that gain competitive advantage. You have your thrust, which is a frontal attack. You have feint, which is attack on focal area, but it's not your target area. And then you have gamut. Then you have counterattacks, which are responding to the attacks brought on to you. You need to be aware, motivated, and be able to respond to those. And then you have your debates. So strategy versus antitrust. So some agents can accuse businesses of being anti-competitive, but there's arguments on this. Are they actually being hyper-competitive? Sometimes the laws create confusion or can be unfair or discriminate against the U.S. That was very interesting to me. And then you have competition versus anti-dumping. So it's difficult to prove that a product is selling below the cost. And again, there's that hyper-competitive action. This may not be a bad thing. So that's where those laws don't look at those underlying things. The solution is to phase out those laws. And then your strategy. So understand the industry that could create competition or cooperation. So just understanding all of that. Strengthening the resources that help compete or cooperate. And then know the rules of the game that govern your domestic and your international competition. So just looking at all the laws and all the rules and understanding what the competition is doing.